Welcome back, everyone. We're kicking off a new deep dive today, and this time we're taking a look at Chris Guillebeau's The $100 Startup. It's a book that's really captured the imagination of, I think, a lot of folks out there who, like me, have maybe daydreamed about, chucking the whole 9 to 5 thing and kind of forging their own path.
Yeah.
And Guillebeau's book is like overflowing with stories of people who've actually done that. And what's really remarkable is that they built these thriving businesses without like massive investments or like fancy MBAs. So are you ready to get inspired and maybe uncover some unconventional wisdom along the way?
Absolutely. What really grabs me about uh, Guillebeau's whole approach is how he just tosses the old rule book right out the window.
Yeah, right.
Forget about chasing venture capital and those huge, like, intimidating business plans. He's all about, like, tapping into what lights you up. Find that thing you're passionate about, spot a need out there in the market that nobody else is filling, and then, boom, take action. It's kind of refreshing, isn't it?
Oh, it totally is. Like he calls it a blueprint to freedom, which I love. And those stories he shares really do paint a picture of like, the liberating side of self-employment. So break this down for me a little bit. Like, what did Guillebeau uncover in all this research?
Okay, so Guillebeau, uh, he spent years, like, really digging into the stories of over 100 entrepreneurs who launched these, like, micro businesses, and a lot of them, get this, started with, like, less than $100 and no special skills.
Mhm.
He calls them, get this, accidental entrepreneurs,
Ha!
which I think captures the whole vibe of the book perfectly. These aren't your typical business school grads. They're everyday people who kind of stumble into success just by following what they love and being super resourceful.
I love that accidental entrepreneurs. It just makes the whole starting a business thing a lot less scary, right?
Right.
Like, hey, maybe I could actually do this. Did he have like specific criteria though for the entrepreneurs he included in the book?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. He wanted to make sure he was studying businesses that were truly, open to anyone, no matter their background. So there were these three big things they had to meet. First, they couldn't rely on some super special skill.
Right, accessible.
Yeah, exactly. Then they had to be willing to open up their books, be totally transparent about their finances, and finally, no more than 5 employees.
Wow, okay.
Guillebeau was all about the power of small, lean businesses.
That makes a lot of sense. It really is about keeping it simple. One of the stories that really stuck with me was about Michael. Remember him, the guy who got laid off from his corporate job and ended up selling mattresses
Oh, yeah,
out of a former car dealership. Talk about a curveball, right?
totally.
What can we like learn from Michael's story?
Well, I think Michael's story is like this awesome example of how sometimes when one door closes, right, another one swings wide open, but it's not the one you expected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of getting all bummed out about losing his job, he saw a need in the market, right, and
Mhm.
found this like really creative way to fill it. He didn't let fear or what everyone else was doing hold him back. What I find really inspiring is that Michael wasn't just chasing the money. He really found happiness in his new thing, even going as far as donating the suit he wore on his last day at his corporate job.
Oh, wow.
It's a good reminder, I think, that success doesn't always look the same for everyone, and sometimes taking a detour can actually lead you right where you're meant to be.
Love that. Embracing the unexpected, right? And finding that thing that actually lights you up, even if it's selling mattresses.
Right.
Which actually reminds me of Sarah Young, the woman who started a yarn store because, get this, she just couldn't find the kinds of yarn she wanted. So she like built a whole business out of her passion for knitting. Is there like a secret formula there?
Yeah, Sarah's story is a perfect example of what Guillebeau calls the follow your passion model.
Mhm.
He noticed that so many successful businesses, they actually started with like a personal hobby or interest. The trick, though, is finding that sweet spot, right, where your passion overlaps with a problem you can solve for other people. And for Sarah, it was her being like this expert shopper and her deep knowledge of yarn.
Yeah.
And get this, within like 6 months, her yarn store was making a profit, and she even had this like international following. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, I think there's a big lesson there, right, for anyone wanting to start their own thing.
Totally. It's inspiring.
What are you passionate about? Could that be the foundation for your business? I mean, it's worth thinking about, right?
Oh, absolutely. Something as simple as knitting turning into a global business. I used to think that whole follow your passion thing was a little I don't know, naive, maybe, like something people say but don't actually do. But Guy is challenging that, isn't he?
Oh, he is, big time. He's not saying, just blindly follow your dreams and everything will magically work out.
Right, right.
It's more about being strategic about it.
Mhm.
Take Kyle Hepp, for example, the wedding photographer.
Mm.
She found her niche, right, by focusing on these non-traditional love stories.
Oh, I read about her, yeah.
Yeah. She travels all over documenting these unique weddings, and she's built this amazing business doing what she loves.
Yeah.
I think it shows that when you combine passion with a clear understanding of who your ideal client is, and a willingness to put in the work, you can be incredibly successful.
It's so cool how she found her niche by going a little deeper,
Yeah.
like beyond what everyone else was doing and seeing a need that maybe even the clients themselves hadn't fully articulated yet. It's like Guilbeault talks about this crafting a compelling offer. Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Knowing how to make an offer people can't refuse, that's essential for building a successful business. And to explain it, Guilbeault uses this brilliant analogy. He compares a compelling offer to like a slice of orange being offered to a runner at mile 18 of a marathon.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I see where you're going with this. You're
Yeah,
totally exhausted. You've hit the wall, and suddenly this simple slice of orange is like the most amazing thing you've ever seen.
exactly.
But how does that connect to business?
Okay, so think of it like this. Your customers, they have these needs and desires, and your offer, it should be designed to meet those needs in a way that they can't resist.
Yeah.
It's almost like you need to know your customers so well that you can like anticipate their cravings, before they even realize it themselves. Like think of Pernod Dugarala. He built a really successful business teaching people, wait for it, Excel.
Excel,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Not exactly the sexiest topic, right?
Yeah. Not the most glamorous thing. But here's the thing. Perna, he's a genius because he understood how to reframe his offer. So instead of just, selling spreadsheets, he focused on how his customers would feel. He was selling them a way to become like office heroes,
Ah,
stand out and impress their bosses. He tapped into their desire to achieve something and be recognized.
so smart.
So how can you apply this, to your own thing? How can you reframe your product or service to really highlight the emotional benefit?
That's such a great insight. It's not just about the features or the practical stuff. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level, right? It really makes you think about marketing and positioning in a whole new way.
Totally, totally. If you want to make an offer they can't refuse, you got to understand your customer.
Absolutely. One of the things that that really caught my eye in the $100 startup was Guillebeau's discussion of location independence.
Oh yeah, the dream.
Right. Working from anywhere. He shares these amazing stories of entrepreneurs who are actually, living that dream, right?
He does. That whole idea is like exploded in the past few years. And I totally get why, right? Guillebeau profiles people like Brandon Pierce, the music teacher who created this software to manage his students. And before he knew it, bam, he had this full-time business making $30,000 a month. And the best part? He runs the whole thing from Costa Rica.
Wow.
Right.
30,000 a month from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But even for those of us, who aren't packing our bags for a tropical island just yet, there are still things we can learn from these location independent entrepreneurs, right?
Oh, totally. The basic principles, they still apply no matter where you are.
Hmm.
It's about using technology to create a business that's not stuck in one place, right? And Guillebeau lays out like tons of practical advice on how to pull this off. He covers like picking the right place to go, figuring out visas, and even getting down to the nitty-gritty of setting up your business for remote work.
It's like a mini guidebook for aspiring digital nomads.
Exactly.
I always get kind of intrigued by the whole launch phase when you're starting a business. It feels like this really crucial moment, like you're making your grand debut on the world stage.
Yeah.
So how does Guillebeau approach this whole launch thing?
Okay, so get this. He actually compares launching a business to, wait for it, a Hollywood movie premiere.
Okay.
I think it's brilliant because it emphasizes like how important it is to build excitement,
Yeah.
Get people hyped up. Think about everything that goes into a big movie release. There's trailers, interviews, social media buzz. It's all orchestrated to create the biggest impact possible.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. And just like a successful movie premiere can make or break a film, a well-executed launch can be crucial to the success of a business. So what are like some of the key elements of a successful launch according to Gibo?
Well, he lays out this super detailed checklist. It's got like 39 steps.
Wow.
It covers everything from defining your value proposition to building an audience and creating a sense of urgency. Guilbeault really stresses that a good launch, it's not just about those initial sales. It's about creating a loyal customer base, people who will stick with you for the long haul. Remember Jason Glaspie?
Oh yeah, the guy who tapped into that whole paleo diet trend
Yeah.
with his meal planning service. He
Exactly.
went from like $0 to $6,000 a month in recurring revenue in just a year. And he built the whole thing with a website that only needed like a couple of hours of work a week. Crazy, right?
Exactly. And a lot of his success can be traced back to that well-executed launch,
Yeah.
right? He generated buzz, offered valuable bonuses, and made the benefits of his program like crystal clear. He basically followed the blueprint that Guilbeault lays out in the book.
It's amazing to see how a well-planned launch can really give a business that initial push, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not all about, the hard sell and those flashy marketing tricks, is it?
Right.
Guilbeault also talks about building genuine relationships and giving back to your community. What role do those things, like the softer aspects, play in all of this?
That's a really great point. Guilbeault, he argues that building relationships and giving back are not just nice things to do, they're essential for long-term success. He talks about Scott Meyer, who co-founded a consulting firm in South Dakota that helps small businesses use technology.
Okay.
Scott and his brother, they built their business on genuine relationships and this commitment to making their clients' lives better, adding value. They focused on building trust and fostering a sense of community, and then the sales just followed naturally.
I like that. It's about creating a win-win, right?
Exactly.
Where you're providing value and building a network of support. It's like that saying, what goes around comes around. If you focus on, helping others and building strong relationships, good things will come back to you.
Exactly. It's about planting seeds, nurturing those connections, and watching them grow.
So we've covered a lot. We've talked about finding your passion, making an offer people can't refuse, launching with a bang, and building those meaningful relationships. But there's this whole other part of the puzzle, isn't there? Scaling your business. How do you go from a one-person show to something bigger?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And what's so cool about the $100 startup is that Gilo doesn't say there's only one way to scale.
Yeah.
The best approach depends on what you want out of life, your values.
Yeah.
He tells this really interesting story about Silly, a ketubah artist.
Oh, yeah.
Right. She was creating these beautiful Jewish marriage contracts as like a side gig, and she had this dream of quitting her day job and going all in on her art.
I remember reading about her. I felt like that classic, follow your passion success story.
Yeah. And for a while, it totally was. She quit her job, put everything into her art, and things were awesome,
Yeah.
But then something kind of unexpected happened. She started to feel like creatively stifled, and she missed working with other people, collaborating. It turned out that having a business that was so intertwined with like her personal identity, it wasn't as fulfilling as she thought it would be.
That's such an important point, right? Like it challenges this idea that turning your passion into your full-time gig is always the ultimate goal. So, what happened to Silly? Did she end up like giving up on her art completely?
No, not at all. She just realized that she was happiest when things were balanced.
Mhm.
So she scaled back her art business and found a new job where she could be creative and work with others. She found that her happy place wasn't going all in on one thing, but like having a mix of things in her life that she loved.
I love that. She was able to adapt, and find a path that really worked for her. It's a good reminder that we all get to define what success looks like, right? So we've got Silly, who found fulfillment in keeping things small and focused. But what about the flip side? Who's someone who embodies building something bigger?
Well, Gilbo contrasts Silly's experience with Tom Ben, who's this successful backpack designer.
Mm.
Tom's built this thriving company in Seattle. He's got his own factory, over 20 employees. He's totally immersed in his business, and he loves the challenges and the rewards of of building something substantial. For him, scaling means expanding his operations, creating jobs, and making high-quality products on a larger scale.
Okay, so we have Silly, who loves keeping things small, and Tom, who's all about building something larger. It just goes to show that there's no one right way to do this whole entrepreneur thing,
All
right?
right.
It's about finding what works for you. But let's say you do want to, grow your business beyond just you. What are some strategies Guillebeau recommends?
Well, he introduces this concept he calls franchising yourself.
Franchising yourself. Okay.
Now, don't freak out.
Yeah.
He's not talking about like traditional franchising with all the legal stuff and all that. It's more about creating a model that lets you expand without losing control or compromising, your values.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What does franchising yourself actually look like in practice?
He talks about building a hub and spoke model
Hmm.
where you have your main operation, your hub,
Yeah.
and then you expand outwards with these different strategies, your spokes.
Okay, so like spokes on a wheel.
Exactly.
Okay.
And these spokes, they can be anything, really partnerships, outsourcing, creating spin-off projects that complement
Yeah.
your core business.
Can you give me an example? I'm trying to visualize this whole hub and spoke thing.
Sure. Imagine you're a web designer
Mhm.
who creates websites for small businesses,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's your hub, your core business. Now, think about some spokes you could add.
Okay. I'm listening.
You could create online courses
Yeah.
teaching web design, right? So you're like packaging your knowledge and selling to a wider audience. You could find some freelance web developers who could handle overflow work,
Mhm.
right? So you can take on more clients without burning yourself out. You could even develop some productized services like pre-designed website templates that you could easily replicate and sell to a bigger market.
Those are great examples.
Yeah,
I can see how this franchising yourself idea lets you scale your impact and, maybe even your income without having to deal with all the headaches of a traditional big team or complex operations.
right. It's much more flexible.
It is. Guillebeau also talks a lot about outsourcing as a key strategy for scaling. What are some of his big takeaways on that front?
Oh, Gibo is a huge fan of outsourcing,
Hmm.
and he offers some awesome advice on how to make it work,
Right,
effectively.
right.
Remember Brandon Pierce, the music teacher in Costa Rica? He actually says that outsourcing is what freed up his time to really grow his business and enjoy that location-independent lifestyle.
That's right. He hired a virtual assistant to handle all that administrative stuff that was eating up all his time.
Exactly. And what I really like about Guillebeau's take on outsourcing is that he stresses being strategic about it.
Okay.
It's not just about getting rid of tasks you don't like. It's more about identifying the things that are truly draining your energy and keeping you from focusing on your strengths.
Right.
Remember, your time is super valuable, right? And outsourcing can be a great way to get some of it back.
That's a great point. It's working smarter, not harder. And sometimes that means letting go of certain tasks and letting someone else who's better at them, handle it.
Exactly.
But outsourcing isn't some magic solution, is it? There are definitely things to watch out for.
Oh, for sure. Outsourcing takes planning, clear communication, and the right systems in place.
Okay, yeah.
You need to spell out exactly what needs to be done, make sure everyone's on the same page about expectations, and provide good training and support to the people you're working with. It's definitely not just set it and forget it. You need to manage it. But when it's done well, it can be like a game changer for your business.
So we've talked about outsourcing as a way to free up your time and energy. But what about using other people's expertise and their networks to help you scale? Guillebeau talks about strategic partnerships, right?
Yeah, he does. And he gives some awesome examples of how powerful those partnerships can be, as a growth engine.
Oh, okay.
Remember Scott Meyer, the consultant from South Dakota we talked about earlier?
Yeah,
Well, he built his successful business in partnership with his brother.
right. Yeah.
They used their individual skills and connections to create this synergy that really propelled their business forward.
That's a great example of collaboration amplifying your impact, right? Two heads are better than one, especially when, those two heads bring different skills and perspectives. What are some other ways that entrepreneurs can use partnerships to scale?
Well, there's affiliate marketing. Guillebeau talks about that too.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He explains how to build these mutually beneficial relationships with other businesses or people who can promote your stuff to their audiences.
Ah, so it's like having a whole sales team without having to, actually manage a sales team. That's brilliant, especially for, online businesses.
Exactly.
What are some things to keep in mind when you're setting up an affiliate program?
It's all about making sure everyone wins, right?
Yeah,
You need to structure the program in a way that makes your partners want to promote your products while also making sure they're being paid fairly.
right. Makes sense.
And Gibo gives some really clever tips on how to attract good affiliates and make sure your program is designed to get results.
Okay, so I'm starting to see that scaling is really about uh, being smart with your resources,
Hmm.
whether it's other people's time or their expertise or their networks. It's about working smarter, not harder. But with all these different strategies for scaling, it can be a bit overwhelming, you know?
Oh, I know, right?
How do you even know where to start?
Well, this is where Gibo's business audit comes in.
Business audit. Wow.
Yeah, he gives you all these thought-provoking questions that can help you, really look at your business and see where you can improve. It's like uh, it's like giving your business a checkup.
I like that. A business checkup.
Right, to assess its health and see where there might be weaknesses or opportunities.
So, what are some of the questions that entrepreneurs should be asking themselves during this audit?
One of the most important ones is, where do you actually make money? It sounds simple, right? But it's really easy to get so caught up in the day-to-day that you lose sight of the big picture. This audit helps you figure out which of your products or services are bringing in the most cash so you can focus your energy where it matters most.
Okay, so it's about working smarter, not harder,
Exactly.
and making sure your efforts are, aligned with your financial goals. What are some other insights from Guilbeault's business audit?
He encourages entrepreneurs to ask themselves, what are you good at? What are you not so good at? What are your
Yeah.
customers saying about your business? What are your competitors doing well? What are they doing poorly? Are there any opportunities in your market that nobody's taking advantage of?
Right. It's about stepping back and really taking a look, and being honest.
Exactly.
Mm.
By honestly answering these questions, you can get a really clear picture of where your business stands
Yeah.
and identify areas where you can make things better.
I can see how this business audit could be super helpful for gaining clarity, spotting opportunities, and setting priorities for growth. It's about taking a step back and looking at things objectively.
Exactly. And a big takeaway from the book is that success isn't all about money. It's about building a life that reflects your values and lets you chase your passions.
Right. So it's not just building a business, it's building a life and finding that sweet spot where your work feels meaningful, your income supports the lifestyle you want, and you have the freedom to design your days the way you want. But Guillebeau also points out that building a successful business, no matter how big or small, requires a certain mindset,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. The mindset of an unconventional entrepreneur is crucial. And that's something we'll dive into next time as we continue exploring the $100 startup.
When we talk about scaling a business, we often picture, like rapid growth, tons of employees building this like massive empire. But Guillebeau kind of challenges that view, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, definitely. What's so interesting about the $100 startup is that Guillebeau really stresses that there's no one-size-fits-all way to scale. The best way to do it depends entirely on what you want, your personal goals and values. He tells this really compelling story about Silly. She's a keto artist.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, she had this successful side hustle creating these beautiful Jewish marriage contracts.
I remember reading about Silly. She dreamed of like quitting her day job and just focusing on her art full time. It seemed like a classic, follow your passion success story, right?
Yeah, and for a while it was. Silly took the plunge, went all in on her art, and at first things were great. But then something interesting happened. She started feeling creatively stifled, and she realized she missed the collaborative aspects of her old job. It turned out that having a business that was so closely tied to her identity wasn't as fulfilling as she thought it would be.
That's such an important point. It challenges that assumption that turning your passion into a full-time business is always the end goal. Sometimes maybe keeping some separation can lead to, more fulfillment. So what happened to Zerly? Did she give up her art altogether?
Nope, not at all. She realized that she was happiest when she had a balance.
Right.
So she decided to scale back her art business and found a new job where she could have that creative collaboration that she was missing.
Yeah.
She discovered that her ideal situation wasn't going all in on one thing, but having a life that incorporated her passion and other things that made her happy.
I love that she was able to like course correct, and find a path that really felt aligned with with what she wanted. It's a good reminder that we get to like define our own version of success. So if silly represents one end of the scaling spectrum, right, prioritizing balance and personal fulfillment over, rapid growth, who exemplifies the other end? Who's all about building something bigger?
Guilbeault contrasts Sully's story with Tom Bin. He's a successful backpack designer and manufacturer. He's built this amazing company in Seattle, with his own factory, over 20 employees. He's super passionate about his business, and he just thrives on the challenge of building something substantial. For him, scaling is all about expanding his operations, creating jobs, and making high-quality products on a larger scale.
Okay, so we have Silly, who, loves the small and focused approach, and Tom, who's all about building a larger enterprise. It really does highlight how many different ways there are to approach this entrepreneur thing,
Yeah.
right? There's no right or wrong answer. It's about what works for you. But let's say you do want to grow your business, beyond just you. What are some strategies Guilbeault recommends?
He's got this concept he calls franchising yourself.
Franchising yourself.
Okay,
Yeah.
but don't let that term throw you off.
Yeah.
He's not talking about, traditional franchising with all the legal stuff and complexities. It's more about creating a model that lets you grow without uh, without losing control or compromising on your values.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So, what does franchising yourself actually look like?
Well, it involves creating a hub and spoke model.
Hub and spoke.
Yeah. So you have your central operation, your hub, right? And then you expand outward with these different strategies, your spokes.
Okay, got it. Like spokes on a wheel.
Exactly. And these spokes, they can be anything. Partnerships, outsourcing, or, even creating spin-off projects that complement your core business.
Could you give me a specific example? I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole hub and spoke thing.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a web designer who specializes in building websites for small businesses. Right, that's your hub, your core business. Now think about some potential spokes. You could create online courses teaching your web design skills. So you're basically packaging your knowledge and selling it to a wider audience, right? Or you could build a network of freelance web developers who can handle overflow work.
Mm.
That way you can take on more projects without burning yourself out. You could even create productized services like pre-designed website templates or logo packages. Those are things that can be easily replicated and sold to a much bigger market. There's just a few examples, but you can see how you can strategically grow without losing your focus.
Those are great examples. I can see how this franchising yourself approach could let you, scale your impact and maybe even your income without having to deal with the traditional burdens of managing a huge team or really complex operations.
Exactly. It's way more flexible and adaptable.
It is. Guibo also talks quite a bit about outsourcing as a key strategy for scaling a business. What are some of his main insights there?
Oh, Guilbeault is a huge advocate for outsourcing, and he has some really great advice on making it work well. Remember Brandon Pierce, the music teacher who runs his business from Costa Rica?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he actually credits outsourcing with giving him back his time so he can focus on growing his business and living that location independent lifestyle.
That's right. He hired a virtual assistant to handle all that admin work that was taking up so much of his time.
Exactly. And what I find particularly helpful about Guilbeault's approach is that he really emphasizes being strategic with your outsourcing. It's not just about, dumping tasks you don't like. It's about really figuring out what activities are truly draining you and keeping you from focusing on your strengths and what you love to do.
Right. It's about prioritizing, right?
Exactly.
Your time is your most valuable asset.
Absolutely. And outsourcing can be a powerful way to get more of it back.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about outsourcing as a way to free up your time and energy. But what about tapping into other people's expertise and networks? Guibo, he also talks about strategic partnerships, right?
He does, and he had some great examples of how those partnerships can be this amazing engine for growth. Remember Scott Meyer, the consultant from South Dakota?
Yeah, yeah.
He built his thriving business with his brother.
Right.
They combined their individual skills and their networks, and it created this powerful synergy that really helped their business take off.
That's a fantastic example of of how working together can really multiply your impact.
Totally.
Two heads are better than one, especially when they bring different strengths to the table.
Yeah.
What are some other ways that entrepreneurs can leverage partnerships to scale their businesses?
Oh, affiliate marketing is a great one. Gibo explores that in depth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He explains how to create these win-win relationships with other businesses or even just, individuals who can promote your products or services to their audience.
Ah, so it's like having a whole sales force without the overhead. That's really smart, especially for online businesses. What are like some key things to think about when you're setting up an affiliate program?
Well, the most important thing is to make sure it's a win-win for everyone involved. You want to structure it in a way that motivates your partners to promote your stuff while also ensuring they're getting paid fairly for their efforts.
Right, right. It has to be fair.
And Guilbeault offers some great advice on how to find and attract, high-quality affiliates and structure your program to get the best results.
I'm starting to see how scaling a business is really about, using your resources wisely, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's other people's time or their skills or their connections. It's about working smarter and building a strong support network. But with all these different scaling strategies, it can be, kind of overwhelming. Like, how do you decide which approach is the right one for your business?
That's where Guilbeault's business audit comes into play.
Business audit.
Yeah. He provides all these really thought-provoking questions to help you evaluate your business and see where there's room for improvement. It's kind of like giving your business a checkup.
I like that analogy, a business checkup. So, what are some of the questions entrepreneurs should be asking themselves during this audit?
One of the most important questions is, where do you actually make money?
Oh, okay.
It seems like a no-brainer, right?
Right.
But it's really easy to lose sight of the big picture when you're caught up in the day-to-day.
Oh,
This audit helps you pinpoint which products or services are bringing in the most revenue, so you can make sure you're putting your energy where it matters most.
that makes sense. It's about making sure your efforts are lining up with your financial goals. What are some other key insights from Guilbeault's business audit?
Well, he encourages entrepreneurs to think about their strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
What are you good at? What are you not so good at? He also wants you to think about what your customers are saying about you. And what about your competitors? What are they doing well? What are they doing not so well? Are there any opportunities in your market that nobody's really tapped into yet? By really, being honest with yourself and answering these questions, you can get a much clearer picture of where your business stands and see where you can make improvements.
Okay, so it's about stepping back and getting that bigger picture view,
Exactly.
and being really honest with yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the big takeaways from the book is that success isn't just measured in dollars and cents. It's about creating a life that feels right to you, that aligns with your values.
It's not just building a business, it's building a life. And finding that sweet spot where your work feels meaningful, your income supports the life you want, and you have the freedom to design your days in a way that brings you joy. But Guilbeault also reminds us that building a successful business, no matter how big or small, requires a certain mindset, right?
Absolutely. The mindset of an unconventional entrepreneur is it's a key ingredient for success. And that's something we'll explore more next time as we continue our deep dive into the $100 startup.
So we've talked about finding that passion, crafting that irresistible offer, launching with a bang, building those relationships, even scaling your business. But now I'm really curious about the mindset of these unconventional entrepreneurs. What sets them apart? What makes them tick?
Well, one thing that Guilbeault really hammers home is the importance of action.
Right.
It's not enough to just have a great idea. You got to be willing to take that leap and make it happen. He talks about how this martyr mentality can really hold people back.
The martyr mentality.
Yeah, that idea that you have to suffer and sacrifice to achieve success.
Oh, I know that one. Like, you got to grind yourself to dust before you can achieve anything worthwhile.
Exactly. And it's just not true. Actually, the most successful entrepreneurs are often the ones who are having the most fun.
Mm.
Guilbeault encourages you to shift from that martyr mindset to a hustler mindset.
Oh yeah, hustler mindset. So what does that even mean? Does it mean being like pushy or aggressive? Because I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that image.
That's a great question. And Guilbeault addresses that head on.
Yeah.
He's not talking about being cutthroat or, manipulating people.
Okay, good.
For him, a hustler is someone who's resourceful, persistent, and willing to put themselves out there, someone who takes risks and sees challenges as opportunities to grow. Think of Naomi Dunford.
Oh, yeah.
She built a six-figure business teaching people how to start their own micro businesses.
Her story is amazing. She
Oh,
went from being homeless to running a thriving business.
exactly. And she did it by embracing that hustler mentality.
Yeah.
She didn't let her circumstances hold her back, and she wasn't afraid to ask for help when she needed it.
So it's about working hard, but also working smart, being resourceful, and just never giving up. I like that. But how do you actually develop that hustler mindset? Are there like specific things people can do?
There are. Guillebeau has some really practical suggestions, like he recommends making a list of 50 people you could reach out to for support, brainstorming creative solutions to uh, common business problems, and just saying yes to opportunities, even if they feel, a little scary.
Yeah.
It's all about pushing past those limiting beliefs and embracing a more opportunistic way of thinking.
That say yes thing, that really resonates with me. I'm often so quick to say no because I'm scared of, failing or looking stupid, but I know that saying yes, even when it's uncomfortable, can lead to some amazing things.
Absolutely. You never know what incredible opportunities are waiting for you when you say yes. Gilliam also talks about building a tribe, a community of supporters, collaborators, and customers who who believe in what you're doing.
A tribe, I love that. It's like building those genuine connections and creating this sense of belonging, right? Like surrounding yourself with
Mhm.
people who support you and inspire you. But how do you actually build a tribe, especially when you're just starting out and maybe feeling a little, you know, alone?
Gelbo shares this great example of a yarn store owner who built this really thriving community by going above and beyond for her customers. She sends personalized thank you notes with every order. She offers special deals to her loyal customers, and she provides just like exceptional customer service.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
It's not just about, selling yarn. It's about making people feel valued. It reminds me of those small town businesses where everyone knows your name and you feel like you're part of something special.
Yeah.
And it's not just about warm fuzzies, is it? That kind of customer loyalty can really pay off for a business.
Wow, totally. Repeat business, word of mouth marketing, that's gold for any business. And when you create a tribe, you're not just building a business, you're building a movement.
I like that.
You're creating something that people are excited to be a part of, something they want to tell their friends about.
So it's not just what you sell, it's how you make people feel.
Exactly.
It's about those connections. But let's talk about the money for a second. How do these unconventional entrepreneurs approach, the whole funding thing? Do they all take out loans or max out their credit cards?
Guillebeau really encourages entrepreneurs to think outside the box when it comes to funding. He challenges that traditional idea of, going to banks or venture capitalists, especially for these smaller businesses. He shares stories of entrepreneurs who funded their businesses through crowdfunding or community investments, or even by pre-selling their products or services to their biggest fans.
Pre-selling, that's a great idea. It's a great way to like validate your idea and see if there's actual demand and you get money before you even launch.
Exactly. He talks about Shannon, who started a successful food truck business by raising $10,000 on Kickstarter.
Wow, $10,000 on Kickstarter. That's incredible. But it's not as easy as like just posting your idea and waiting for the money to roll in, right?
Right. Shannon put in the work. She created a compelling story around her food truck, offered cool rewards to her backers, and generated buzz through social media and community events. She really made people feel like they were a part of something special.
It just shows that when you have a great idea and a passionate community and you're willing to put yourself out there, funding can come from unexpected places. And that's really what Gibbo's book is all about, isn't it? Empowering people to take control of their lives, follow their dreams, and build businesses that reflect their values and goals.
Absolutely. And one of the key messages is that, success isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. He encourages readers to define their own version of success.
That's so important. We often get caught up in this idea of what success should look like, the big house, the fancy car, the corner office. But true success is about creating a life that feels authentic to you.
Couldn't agree more. Guillebeau wants you to think about what kind of freedom you're after. Financial freedom, location freedom,
Right.
creative freedom.
Right. It's different for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He tells the story of Cherie Vard. She built this successful business designing knitwear patterns, and she prioritized a balanced lifestyle. She chose to work part-time from her home in Bali.
Wow.
She created a business that perfectly supported the life she wanted to live.
That's really inspiring. It reminds me that that we have the power to design our lives and our businesses in a way that reflects what matters most to us. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the $100 startup, what's the one thing our listeners can do today to move closer to their entrepreneurial goals?
That's the question we want to leave you with. What's that first step, no matter how small, that you can take right now?
It doesn't have to be anything huge. Maybe it's brainstorming some business ideas or reaching out to a mentor or even just creating a landing page for your website.
The key is to just take action. Start small, experiment, and build that momentum. And before you know it, you'll be well on your way to creating a business and a life that you truly love.
And don't forget to visit our website for more resources, including a downloadable checklist inspired by the $100 startup. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.